The Girl Who Dreamed Beyond the Hills, Part 7. The air in the grand hall grew thick with anticipation as contestants and guests waited for the announcement. The essay competition had drawn students from every corner of the nation, and now the time had come to name the winners. Ada sat quietly in her seat, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Around her, students whispered and fidgeted. Some checked their phones, others adjusted their clothes or recited victory speeches under their breath. Ada stared straight ahead, her heart beating like a drum in her chest. She wasn't sure what to expect. She had given everything: her voice, her truth, her pain. But would it be enough? The host, a woman in a royal blue gown, stepped onto the stage with a golden envelope in hand. "In third place," she announced, "Chinelo Akande from Royal Scholars Academy." Thunderous applause filled the room as a girl in sleek braids and high heels strutted onto the stage. "In second place," the host continued, pausing for effect, "Amaka Ifeanyi from St. Gregory's International School." Another round of applause erupted. Ada's heart sank. Her name hadn't been called. Had she failed? Was it all for nothing? Then the hall grew silent. And in first place, the overall winner of this year's national essay competition is a longer pause. Ada Easy from Unity Girls High School. Ada froze. For a second, her mind couldn't process what she'd heard. Then she saw the spotlight swing toward her. People began to clap, first politely, then louder until it became a standing ovation. Tears blurred her vision as she stood and walked to the stage. The host handed her the microphone. "Do you have any words to say, Ada?" She nodded slowly, her voice shaking as she began. "This is not just a win for me, but for every girl who has ever been told her dreams were too big, for every child who walks barefoot to school, for every parent who sacrifices sleep so their children can read under a flickering lamp." The applause was thunderous, but just as the joy swelled within her, reality came crashing in. She remembered. A father was not alive to hear this. The ache returned like a punch to the chest. That night, as cameras flashed and dignitaries took photos with her, Ada wore a bright smile, but inside, she felt the ache of absence. She returned to her hostel room, dropped her trophy on the bed, and curled up with her mother's wrapper. It still smelled like home. The prize for winning included a scholarship to one of the country's top schools and a mentorship with a senator. But with opportunity came more change. Ada would have to move again, this time to a new city, far from everything and everyone she'd known, including her mother. At home, her mother toiled alone on the farm, growing weaker with each season. Ada called often, sending money from her stipend and promising, "I'll come home soon." But time moved fast, and school was demanding. At her new elite school, Ada felt more alone than ever. Her classmates spoke fluent English, quoted global philosophers, and carried laptops like notebooks. Ada struggled to keep up. Sometimes, she sat at the back of the class, afraid to speak, afraid of sounding too village and exotic. One day, during a science lesson, the teacher asked a question about energy. No one raised their hand. Ada hesitated, then remembered her father's stories about kerosene lamps and how they worked. She raised her hand. "Energy isn't just what powers machines," she said softly at first. "It's what keeps hope alive when everything else is dark." The room went quiet. The teacher smiled. "Beautifully said." From that day, something shifted. One teacher began mentoring her personally. Another helped her apply for a youth leadership program. Slowly, Ada began to shine again, not by pretending to be like the others, but by embracing her story. Still, her heart ached for home. When she finally returned during the holidays, her mother had aged 10 years. Her hands were rough, her back bent. "I want to take you away from this farm," Ada whispered one evening, helping her shell beans. "I want you to rest." Her mother only smiled. "I rest each time I hear your name on the radio, each time someone says, 'That's Mama Ada.'" "My daughter, your life is my rest." Ada cried that night, not tears of sorrow, but of purpose. Thank you for watching till the end. Please encourage me by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video to your families and friends. Watch out for other amazing, life-touching stories on this channel.